Andrew Urquhart with you on the program today. It is, tough times economically, especially for people who can't do the basics. They need to make tough decisions about whether to pay bills or to buy groceries to feed their family. Food scarcity is very real. And, an organisation that knows this all too well because they're involved in providing essential food for families that are struggling. Vision West, Brook Turner from Vision West joins me now. Brook, kia ora. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
The food scarcity is real and does impact many, many homes in New Zealand. That's an increasing number. It's also the case, though, that food wastage is a reality. We throw out so much food in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Now, some of it is spoilt, and we're not, talking about food safety. That's a different discussion. But give us the breakdown on this. How much food are we wasting compared to the scarcity and the need that's out there?
Yeah, that's right. Well, alarmingly, and we've talked before, Andrew, on the show that, 1 in 4 children, or roughly 27% of our kids, is food insecure at some point during a week. This week, they will not have enough food. But equally, we're throwing out 11% of all the food that goes into New Zealand households a year. That's the equivalent of about 6 weeks of meals per household, and about $3 billion worth of food. So we sit with these two dilemmas, or three actually. One, we're a very rich soil, food-producing agriculture, horticulture nation. Mm-hmm. 2, we've got this food insecurity crisis where 1 in 4 New Zealand households has not got enough food. And then 3, we're just throwing out tons of the stuff. Yep. Literally, it makes up 17% of our landfill as a nation is food. And why is that the case? These are the questions that we ask, and a bunch of organisations are doing a huge amount about it.
Like a lot of aspects of poverty, there is more than enough to go around. It's just that some people have got too much and don't know what to do with it. Other people don't have enough and are desperate to get more. Now, there is some complicated issues such as health and hygiene, and cooked food and spoiled food. Some of that just needs to be wasted. That can't be avoided. But there is some food that there's actually nothing wrong with it, and yet it's being thrown away. Wanting to talk about the difference between a use-by date and a best-by date.
Yes, so there's the use-by date and the best-before date, and often people confuse the two, thinking that a best before date is a use by date. Yeah. So on each of the items of food that you've got, by law, there has to be one of those labels on it if it's not fresh produce or a perishable. Mm-hmm. And if it's a use by date, it's saying, hey, look, after this date on this item, don't have this food anymore.
Yep, not safe.
But if it's a best before date, it's basically saying, we've created this product to perform the best as a product up until this date. Mm-hmm. And after that, its performance or its taste or its crispiness or whatever you want to use begins to diminish. But it does not mean it's not fit for food and for consumption. And so a huge amount of Kiwis treat both of those labels as the same, and so they have things in their pantry that say best before. You every 3 months you go into the pantry, you're looking at a bunch of your dry goods and go, best before September 26th, we're at the end of October now, better chuck that out. But actually it's still totally reasonable to be able to consume that food. The use by date, like I say, is like a hard end, but the best before date is saying, hey, look, this is about the performance of that product, but it doesn't mean that you can't use it after that. The example I love to give people is Marmite. You might remember Marmageddon. Remember that?
Yeah.
The Christchurch earthquake when we lost our Marmite factory, and people were doing Trade Me posts for Marmite. We actually went into one of those posts and bought some Marmite because my wife's a real big Marmite fan. But I remember she rationed that Marmite past the best before.
Yeah.
There was no difference with that Marmite. I mean, I just believe the stuff can never go off.
That's
You know
why
what
they
I mean?
called it Marmageddon, because it will survive the apocalypse. And honestly,
That's
from my
right.
point of view, and this I know is controversial, I think it will still taste as bad after its best before date. But hey, are the consumers part of the problem here? Because if you're producing a food product, if people throw away good food and have to buy more food, surely that's good for the food producer. Do we need to change some of the regulations or some of the policies here to even up the distribution, do you think?
Yeah, I think there's some of that going on. You know, I find it interesting if we compare sort of this conversation to fast fashion
Yeah.
or sort of consumer goods. And there's been a big minimalist movement that says, you know, do you need all that stuff that's been marketed to you? You know, and the general principle of minimalism is that you look at your household goods and you say, in the last 180 days, have I used that item? Have I worn those clothes? Have I looked in that box in the garage and pulled something out because it was useful? Or is it just there? Is it just stuff? And minimalism is saying only purchase and keep the stuff that you need. Interestingly, with food, we don't do that, right? Often we might have a habit of buying certain things in the item in the grocery aisle. And if you're like me, Andrew, you know, my wife doesn't like to send me grocery shopping because I have the inquisitive, oh, that's interesting, you know, and the bill racks up, not because we need the item, but because I'm curious about a new label, a new brand, a new this, a new that. That doesn't necessarily help the overall consumption of food in our household. So I'd really encourage listeners, hey, look in your pantry and go, those food items that you've continued to buy, even though your food habits have changed, are you eating them?
Yeah.
And what would happen if you just continued to buy maybe 50% of those, but gave them to your local charity, as an example? Maybe everyone would be better off if we did that.
Let's circle back to the best before date. What's the policy for food banks, for example? Are you allowed to, if somebody's saying, hey, I'm not using this in my pantry, it's past its best before date, but it's unopened, as far as I know, it's very good. If that's donated to the food bank, are they legally allowed to pass that on to people that need it? Or what's the policy there, Brooke?
Yes, that's correct. We're allowed to pass it on. We do have and different groups have different obligations, but Vision West has a policy where we will always notify the consumer of our food bank goods, those people who are coming for support, that we will separate those those food items that are past the best before date, and those that are items that have been donated to us that are still within that period of time, so that it's up to the person's choice to go, I'm actually okay with getting that Marmite that had a best before in September, or, you know, what those other items might be. And then it's the consumer choice for that, whereas we won't just put those items directly into food parcels. Others do other things. I mean, we've got a lot of, you know, we've got this interesting culture as well of like, blemishes, meaning that food isn't fit for consumption, you know, so you see a brown banana, you don't have it, you don't freeze it, you don't use it for banana bread or banana cake, you know, funny shaped produce, those sorts of things, or even just damaged packaging. It's amazing how trained our eyes and minds have been to perfection, whereas food is actually really durable. It's really resilient. You can do a lot with food. And so just like the best before date, how the food looks, how what the state of the packaging is, you know, within some boundaries, that's still okay to be donated and to help someone with their overall food costs.
Wanting to put that in perspective, though, because I don't want to get into the secondhand tea bags mentality. If you have the capacity to buy new, to donate to a food bank, then that is the best option. However, donating perfectly good food to a food bank rather than throwing it out would be preferable. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And look, there's also just that notion of, by you recognizing, the food that you actually need in your household and maybe not being so hypersensitive to a best before date, your food will last longer, your dollars will go further, and so then, potentially your generosity can be greater as well. So, when we all do our bit, instead of 8,500 grocery shops going into landfill,
Wow.
8.5 million grocery shops going into landfill.
That's a bigger number.
Yeah, those grocery shops could, be in your pantry, but also in the pantries of those who need it most.
8.5 million grocery shops going into landfill. That's every year. Is that correct?
It's every year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's more than the people who live in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Brook, thank you so much for the work that you do. Thanks for shining a light on this important issue, and thanks for taking the time to chat with us today.
Thanks so much, Andrew. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.